he's really he's shameless in intellectual argument. He's absolutely without character, a moral foundation, or even intellectual substance.
We're back, and welcome back to another returning guest and one of my fave podcasters, I have to say. Hi, Zach Langley Chi Chi.
Hey.
Yeah. How's Tokyo today, my dear?
It's really fucking hot. It's like so hot. It's so sweaty and humid. And I had to go to the immigration office today, which is really humiliating and debasing. And you have to like walk like a mile across a concrete island to get there. So I'm feeling very liminal, very LA, very Dead Stars.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're talking about Dead Stars, Bruce Wagner's Dead Stars today, which is one of my favorite books. Bruce Wagner is one of my favorite authors. But before we do that, I just want to say, if you haven't listened to I'm So Popular before, you need to go out and subscribe because it's great. Zach's been on our podcast before, but you need to listen to his podcast as well. I love the direction you've been going, especially with the art selection. Like something old, something new. I fucking love that so much. It's like every episode is a wedding.
I keep gasping, but I love that you're feeling that. I definitely have been very careful with pairing the selections this season, so I'm glad that that's reading. Thank you.
Yeah, and I love that recent episode you did on Hollinghurst as a fellow homosexual. And you didn't do this book, but you mentioned The Spell, which is my favorite Hollinghurst.
Yeah, mine too.
Because I think everyone overlooks it or kind of thinks it's gauche, but I think it's great. Like, it's got like this. You got to be gay to really appreciate it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's got this like cutting and cruel depiction of homosexuality, and with none of the sort of like adornments of the other books, that are kind of more relatable to straight people, I think.
Yeah, I think that's why like the line of beauty, it won the Man Booker Prize, right?
Mm-hmm,
like it definitely checks out because that's like her name's Theresa May, right?
The Prime Minister.
Yeah, okay, I just had to check.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it has like that whole sequence of like her like being portrayed as like Hitler/Satan, so it's very
no.
I can't
It's
tell
not
if this is a bit or not. It's Margaret Thatcher, right?
It's Margaret Thatcher.
Oh,
Oh my
who's
God.
Theresa May?
Theresa May is the more recent
She's the one who
Tory
did
kind
the
of
walk.
gargoyle prime minister.
The Walk.
Yeah.
Wait,
Before- She was
Dumb
prime minister.
walk.
She was prime minister before Johnson.
Yeah.
okay, wait. Who am I talking about?
Margaret Thatcher.
Margaret Thatcher.
That's it. That's the moment.
Yeah.
Margaret Thatcher is portrayed as Satan in that
Yeah.
novel.
Yeah.
So lots of people can kind of get a leg in, but The Spell is like pure MDMA orgy.
Yes.
And it's this nasty car driving, bitter homosexual queens. And I didn't like it the first time I read it because I read it when I was like 18 or 19. And then when I actually like entered gay mores, I definitely felt that it's extremely true.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Have you read that, Ria?
No, I've never read any Hollinghurst. But
Oh,
like,
you need to at least read The Spell. It's very much your vibe.
I will.
I
It
think.
sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. I need to read some more
Yeah.
like British gay stuff after we did God, what's his name? Jude Law as Demon Twink. I was like, I need to get back on that.
The Oscar Wilde
What was that
biopic.
movie?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Googling pictures of Theresa May now because I'm really disturbed.
They do look a little bit alike.
They do actually, like kind of
Mhm.
dowdy kind of like British women with bad teeth and bad.
Oh, there's a
posture.
lot of pictures of her crying.
Theresa May.
Well, I don't think she really enjoyed. She didn't enjoy being prime minister
Yeah.
at all. I don't think.
She had a bad time.
Yeah.
Mm.
But we stand
God.
girl bosses on this podcast, so
I mean,
I make
she
a
led the center of the world into the Brexit era, and what a fine time.
Well,
it's
Rio,
been.
she didn't get Brexit done though. That was
No.
kind of. I think that's kind of why she was so sad because she didn't want Brexit. Okay, we're not going to talk about British politics.
What do you mean,
weeping about Brexit. I had to also say really briefly that I have like a minor heart attack every time you say Rio's name, because that's also my boyfriend's name, who's like sitting right over there. And I'm like, every single time.
That's so beautiful.
Very cute.
In a different world, I'm also Japanese, but
yeah, and then your name would mean in the center of a lotus flower.
Oh, is that what it means?
It depends on what kanji you use, but in this case, yes.
Oh, that's lovely.
Oh, I mean, to dig into getting lit and also I'm popular law. My name is River in Spanish, so it's fine.
Well, there you go.
River, lotus, everything. There you go.
Yeah.
What doesn't Rio mean? Oh, that joke didn't land at
all. Oh dear. Okay, so one more thing before we get to Bruce Wagner is like I just really wanted to get off my chest the struggle of doing a regular podcast and about art rather than fucking news items, because the shit you have to read and watch, like people need to understand this, like, and Zach, I'm sure you feel the same way, that like you have to read and watch so much shit, and it's work. Like it takes so much time up. Like if you're not just like giving your hot take on the latest news item or whatever, like which I think for a certain kind of person is quite easy. Like when you're like really kind of going deep on art and books and things like that, it actually takes time. So one thing I wanted to ask you is what you've been fantasizing about reading on your time off. Like,
lucky for me, I actually have scheduled myself that I don't have to read a book for the podcast for a little bit.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's one book I have to read for August, and it's only like 140 pages.
Oh my God.
So that's easy. But at the same time, so I'm allowed to read whatever I want. And I just read something for the podcast that I finished today. And now I'm reading David Foster Wallace's first novel. I forgot the name of it.
The Broom of the System.
That's right. I've read Infinite Jest before and some of his short fiction, but I've been curious about this. So going into that, and then the rest of my time, I have to play at like these like 520-hour Japanese role-playing games for an episode that's like 7 months in the future. So,
oh my God.
Oh my God. Is this like a Persona thing?
I do want to cover Persona, but I've decided.
Sorry, not Persona. I'm assuming Shinigami Sensei.
Okay. There is a SMT game coming at the end of the season, and then there's a few Final Fantasy games, and there's one other one. So
okay, all right, okay, I know what you're talking about now.
I actually like. I don't even like play that many video games, honestly. The only reason I play video games anymore is like for the podcast at this point. So
that's the only reason we read books anymore. Like, I feel like so enslaved. Well, no, I feel so enslaved to the podcast. Like all my reading is just for the podcast.
It's true.
But yeah, what about everyone else? Like, what are you looking forward to reading once we get this all done? Like.
I mean, foreshadowing for the Dead episode. But thank you. So that's such a good point. I'm terrible. Every single time between every episode, I buy a big fucking book. I'm like, I'm gonna read this book, and then I get like 2 chapters in. I'm like, no, I have to read for the podcast now. I don't know what I want to read. I'm excited to read anything.
There you have it.
That was a pregnant pause. No, I thought you froze.
But... Yeah, so did I.
I did as well.
No, sorry. It was a very pregnant pause. I guess I still want to read. I mentioned before. I really want to read the new Hanya Yanagihara, which is actually it's so rare that I'm really excited to read literary fiction. I generally read literary fiction and then get excited after I start reading it. But and I don't mind being that fag, but A Little Life is so fucking good, and I'm just really excited. I'm very excited to see what she does next.
I have to say that I also desperately want to read To Paradise, but for the exact opposite reason, which is that I think A Little Life is my least favorite novel I've ever read.
Amazing. Good.
I
mean, I honestly, I hated it so much that I kind of like am like horse-shuri theory on it, and I kind of love it. And I think she's like a demonic, frightening woman, and like that like New Yorker profile with her like face like this, you know, like up there. I had a nightmare about it the other day.
Skin.
Yeah,
that's so wild. I think I loved it so much because it just is like, hey, do you want to read 900 pages of torture? I want you to be put off. It's like it's appalling. I completely understand that kind of this is terrible feeling about it.
I think she's very talented. Like I don't know, she's like a great travel writer, and it's a very porny book about you know, bleeding. I mean, it's very pornographic, isn't it? I even though I hated it, I really respect it. I think she's totally nuts, and I love that she like just you know, gave birth to this 900-page monstrosity of cutting yourself and endless tragedy. There's a really good quote I read about the book, and someone's like, you know, the first time that Jude cuts himself, you feel really horrible, but after page 300, you just wish you would fucking aim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I might.
Wow.
Yeah,
you should.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, yeah, okay.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of like on the same. Like, I kind of like it, but it's at a certain point, it felt like everything that she was doing to the characters is like not torture porn, but like coincidental torture porn. It's like you're just doing this because something bad has to happen to this person, and you keep having to like escalate it in a sort of like a melodramatic fashion. And it just felt like, yeah, I know this. Like, I know something like this would happen to this. Like, happens to people like this. Like, it happens all the time, right? Like, people have fucking awful lives. It's not so it's not like not realistic in that sense, but like writers don't have the privilege of being God in that sense, and they have to. It can't like come across as being like predictable or like cliche in some way. It's like like by a certain point, you know that this is going to get worse and worse and worse, and that just makes it kind of less interesting from a reader's perspective.
Well, that's what makes that's what makes it pornographic, right? Because it's
that's what makes
like,
it pornographic.
It escalates into a. Is there a climax of torture?
Oh
yeah, the climax of torture is like
it's so exceedingly painful.
I like laughed when the big climax happens when
just say what it is.
Okay, there's a car accident that like kills this like tortured, like for the first time in the whole fucking novel, the protagonist looks like he's shaping up. Like it just like after like 700 pages, it seems that there is a hope at the end of the tunnel. And then the gangly thin hand of Hanya Yanagihara descends from heaven to flip a car and slaughter every single like loved one in the lead character's life. I was like reading it, and I was like, I like stopped, and I started like cackling. I was like, this demonic bitch.
And the way it happens too is like you can kind of something like that's going to happen, right? And you kind of think that it's probably going to like happen to him or something. And like from memory, it happens to him when they're away on holiday as well or something. They're like some sort of like country house or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, they're at their country house.
Yeah,
and he's fun. Yeah.
And it's just okay. And then he kills himself, of course. Like at the end,
and then he kills himself.
Which I think you like by that point you already know he's going to kill himself too. Well, you know something happens to him anyway.
You know about 5 pages into the book.
Yeah. Well.
It's the only novel I've ever read when I've I've just craved for the protagonist to just fucking do it already. Like, if you really hate living so much, just get out. Let's go. I don't want to have to read about this anymore. Please die. Is that insensitive? I'm sorry.
No, it's great. It's great. It's great.
No, it's fine. I mean, yes, but please go. Continue. Be insensitive.
Oh dear.
No, I mean, sorry. I was just going to say the other thing about that is I had the great fortune of reading The Secret History right after I read A Little Life. So reading 2 big fat girls right one after the other would be really nice. From reading Dead Stars to reading that one. Yeah.
Love it.
Love it. Ruben, what are you looking forward to reading that we don't have to read for the fucking podcast?
I recently found out about a youngish. And she's actually far younger than I thought she was. I thought she was like maybe like mid-30s, but I think she's like functionally my age, which kind of fucks me up a little bit. But this American writer called Jessie Jazuka Stevens, and her new novel, what's it called? The Visitor, about like a random gnome that just rocks up in like Wall Street. So it's like a very sort of like postmodernist type novel. So I'm kind of looking for. Apparently, the gnome like speaks like a Don DeLillo character. Apparently, so that's sort of like an internet-y post market crash type novel. And I also picked up her first novel, which came out like 2 years ago. So looking forward to reading that. I probably at some point want to get to reading Mark De Silva's The Logos, which is like 1,000 pages. So that's just sitting on my bedside table at the moment, getting dust, which I'll get to it at some point.
Zach, if you don't know, Ruben loves long, torturous, experimental, metafictional novels. So it sounds like that one is.
The Jessie Stevens novels are short. They're quite. They sound longer than they are, but
only 600 pages.
No, they're only like 200 pages. So and I've got a lot of a lot of short things. Like Emily Hall's Long Cut, I want to read, which is like 100 pages.
No, I have the same kind of impulse, especially like in college. I had like one summer where I like refused to read anything shorter than 800 pages. Like, and so reading Dead Stars, I was like, it's 600. It's pretty long, but I like read it in like 4 or 5 days. Actually,
it goes really. It's a really fast-paced novel, like in the way that it, like that kind of stream of internet thing.
Yeah, like once it takes a little bit like to get adjusted to the style, but like once you get the sort of rhythm of it, it does go quite quickly.
Yeah, you're just sort of you're taken away by it.
Yeah, I think like to a certain extent as well, you do start to like almost like half skim read it as well. Like you're not taking it all in at the same time.
Like the internet. Yeah. So it's one of the, you know how we're always complaining about like the internet is never rendered in literature in any sort of like convincing way, but like this novel from like 10 years ago kind of does it. So I think
Matt,
anyway. Yeah.
Matt, what are you looking forward to read that doesn't have to do with any I know it's that sexy,
you literally you posted you posted a stack of books
and I've got the stack here. I want to read Sheila Heti's How Should a Person Be? I haven't read that.
Have you read the George Haddad book yet?
No, I've got that though.
I just bought Taipei as well.
Yeah, Taipei by Tao Lin.
I got that for like $1 the other day.
I actually I was thinking of like getting someone on the podcast who's fairly big, who I won't name now, but I'll tell you after we start recording.
Okay.
This because she really likes Tao Lin. And Ben Lerner's Leaving the Atocha Station. So I'm going to read that once we're done with reading all the fucking books for the podcast. We've got one like really big book to go, but the rest of them are all shorter books.
What makes you want to pick up Ben Lerner of all things? What's happened to you?
Well, look. Just
don't tell me Don't tell me it's about having to know the literary scene. God.
No, it's more like that. Paul, friend of the pod, Paul De La Rosa, kind of recommended it to me. So yeah,
I got to read his book.
You should.
So
you really should.
He said he was going to send me a copy, and then I never got one. So I'm like, I guess I should have buy it.
Paul, you're on notice.
You're on notice.
You're fucking put on my list. I do want to say another book I'm looking forward to reading too. Excuse me, my words. I'm very much excited to read the new Tom Perrotta election sequel.
Oh yes, I love Tom Perrotta. I didn't know there was a sequel.
Yes, it's called Tracy Flick Can't Win. So I just read Election for the first time for my show because I'm recording.
I had no idea that was a book. I obviously haven't seen it.
Oh, the book is great. It's a little saccharine. I think the movie's better actually, but I love Tom Perrotta. Little Children is such a sexy book. Oh my god.
Yeah, you were reading you want to read the sequel to that. Is that out yet or?
It's out. I just read I also want to. Okay, another one is that the first Andrew Holleran novel in 17 years just came out.
Oh.
Yeah, he hasn't published. It's a Kingdom of the Sand or something.
It's about faggots.
Yeah, it apparently is like
safe bet.
I mean, yeah, he's written the same novel about 8 times, but every single time I'm like, oh, Wow. So I can't wait to read it again.
I love your gasps.
Thank you.
I'm glad that we've recorded some of your gasps tonight. It's lovely.
I was re-listening to my Mulholland Drive episode and I was like, wow, I gasp a lot.
Gasp.
Oh.
All right. So we've done everyone's books, so we can like what we're gonna read once we're done podcasting, like on the grind.
Mulholland Drive is a nice through line.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Well, yeah. So Dead Stars is the book we're talking about, which is a 2012 novel by Bruce Wagner, who I have to say is possibly one of my favorite living writers. And I think it's a travesty that he's not more well known, because like his skill with like words and like the wordplay and the things he can do with a sentence, I just find astonishing. A good intro to him actually is, has anyone listened to the Bret Easton Ellis podcast interview with him from, I think 2020 it was?
Oh, that's great. I wish I had.
Yeah, it's really good. Like he really goes into like a lot of his process and his work and everything. And you guys have all read the novel, so you can see why Bret Easton Ellis is like into his shit, like because it's all about Hollywood and LA and stuff like that. And one of the things he talked about was the last novel that he published or tried to publish and got fucked over with was the it was called the Marvel Universe.
Marvel Universe.
Yeah, you heard about this? Like,
yes, okay. I can actually say I know who this person is.
Yeah. He was fucked over by the dreadful harpies and enemies of art known as sensitivity readers, because
oh god,
yes, because like the publisher told him that there's like problematic language in this manuscript, and they were like, you need to change that. And it was literally like he called someone fat. Like, it wasn't even that he called someone fat. It was more that the character called themselves fat, and they were fat. And they were like, this is insensitive. We have to change this. And then he was like, fuck this. And then like,
Jesus, I'm really hoping that person never read this novel, because I think they may have had to kill themselves.
That's what he said. Like he said, like my entire body of work up until this point would have been like thrown out by sensitivity readers. Like,
it's really wild. It's so funny. I couldn't, but like reading this novel and then knowing that story, and because I read about it at the time. And then being like, how did they not know the author that they were fucking working with? Like, they commissioned the goddamn book.
Just fucking hell. I feel like as a point as well, just to really reiterate what kind of language this book is. I feel like I want to read out like what I think is like one of the best passages in the short, sort of near the beginning of the book, where one of the characters, what's his name? What's the guy who does is the camera guy, Jersey. Jersey. He's sort of a paparazzi kind of guy, and he's trying to get a job with this guy, Harry, who runs this website called like Honey Shop, which is like, just tries to get like upskirt shots of like any like celebrities and stuff. And Harry is obsessed with what he calls Harry's hairy crusade, and particularly like getting Emma Watson snatched, like being trying to get it on her 18th birthday as well, just when she turns legal, because he's got class, right? And it's just like his in a monologue. I don't even think it's his dialogue or not, I can't remember. So he wanted that, but this time in the wee morning hours of her birthday, Emma Watson's birthday, she'd been out celebrating and simply wasn't careful enough. That's the reason why he wants it, is because she's just too careful and won't whenever they like have that upskirt shot or upskirt moment. She'd been out celebrating and wasn't careful enough, revealing in the process a sliver of hairy, very potted pooty tat. Harry told his pap smearazzi that if you were hunting hair pie, you damn well better know that your best bet was shooting it as it debarked a Range Rover, Benz or SUV. Do it right. It's fish in a barrel. He promised to show Jersey the technique tomorrow, give him a crotch course in the mechanics of getting the classic out-of-backseat snatchy snapshot. Harry made it a point to train all of his bushmen personally. He'd throw on panties and a Loman skirt, park his Audi at the curb and position his boys while scuttling from the back seat. He made them shout, Elle, Chloe, Haley, for that certain je ne sais quif. It was important to know the right stance in GPS, mobile labial position, for the perfect upskirt shot. It was really just vectors and math. Another cool thing about the backseat exit experience is that lots of times, just when you thought you screwed the pooch, you bagged the hooch.
Not the
So
hair
good.
pie.
The hair pie.
I prefer like GPS, global labial system. And that
The amount of euphemisms he has for hairy muff in this one section of the book, it goes for like 6 pages, and it's just, hey, do you know that
and it keeps escalating as well. Like I was reading this on the train the other day, and like I'd been laughing a little bit at that point, but it just keeps getting like more and more absurd and more like ingenuous. I'm just like gagging on the train.
Gagging on that hairy muff.
Yeah.
Gagging on that hairy muff, mama.
Hairy muff.
Also, can we just reiterate? There's like the word muff is like simultaneously the best and worst description of a vagina I can like possibly imagine. It's just
they were just describing on the Perfume Nationalist yesterday, like the frequent image of like a puffy pussy, and like the only like euphemism that like really like sings to the truth of the puffy pussy is muff.
It's just like out there. Yeah. It's like it like enters the room like 2 minutes before the woman does, you know, like.
Is our friend Bruce a friend of Judy?
No, he is not.
No.
He's a straight man.
Wow.
He used to be married to Rebecca De Mornay, who was in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, that like psycho bitch. Like, have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I actually, upon seeing his visage on the internet, I was like, oh, this is obviously a gay man. And then when I read the book and read these like beginning chapters, like, oh no, he's straight. He's just, from
To
LA.
be honest, I almost thought he was like gay because he has like this like visceral like alien description of the vagina that like I've never read from anyone except like Bret Easton Ellis, basically.
And he's technically bisexual, I guess. Like,
oh great.
Whatever.
I guess not anymore. Functionally, he's not anymore, Bret Easton Ellis. So
I'm sure that he's had some, hairy muff before.
So most of his stuff kind of concerns Hollywood, and the novel is pretty much in this vein. I kind of like to describe it as a kind of swirling vortex of sex, drugs, and death in the fame whore apocalypse that is the 21st century. Would we agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds like you've read the blurb of the book.
Wait, is that on the blurb? Is it? I don't think.
No,
it's on the blurb.
it sounds like something that would be on.
But
the
it
blurb of the
is
book.
like that's what it is, though. It's like
you should get a job like writing blurbs of books. I mean, this is
like Peter Travers or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
No, it's exactly that. I mean, you might describe. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it's pretty tragic. That's loud. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a tragic book. It made me sad. This book made me sad.
Yeah, it makes you sad in a very special and isolating way. I feel like a lot of critical art that addresses fame and Hollywood and excess and decadence, like you'd put like the swirling vortex line on the back of the book, and it's never true. But in this case, it really is. Like this, it feels like it's the breaking down whirlpool of reality, and it's very uncomfortable to go through.
You get kind of pulled into it, like yeah.
Just keep making the metaphor work.
Yeah, but it's true though. Like it's true though. Like the experience of reading it is very interesting though. Like when I first read this, like actually my friend recommended it to me like a couple of years ago, but I realized when I started reading that I read it before. And so when I read, the experience of it is like you start it and you're like, all right. And then but you get about 50 pages in, and then it's sort of like it gets you, like its hooks in and like pulls you along, to continue the metaphor, pulls you along the maelstrom or whatever it is. So it's really interesting as a reading experience, I feel like, because some people can't hack it. I think some people just cannot deal with it.
Did you read the Goodreads review of
Yes.
this? I don't know.
I was going to talk about this.
I fucking love Goodreads. I just love those people having a cow about everything, and it's so delightful. People fucking hate this book. My God.
Okay, just it's a good segue in talking about this. So yeah, obviously it's like a very divisive book, including like not just from Goodreads reviewers, but also just like generally like critical takes. I think like it probably didn't get that. It was published by a small press to begin with, wasn't it? And then most of the reviews like were also just kind of like middling. Like the New York Times reviewed it like what's his name, Machiko Kakatani or whatever was reviewing it and just basically just didn't like it. But the Goodreads reviews in particular are like the classic mixture of people saying that it's like their favorite book ever and giving it like 5 stars, or just but basically like people who understand what the book's trying to do, like from a technical perspective, like it's trying to be satirical. It's obviously not endorsing what's being written about. And then you get people like Bria in particular, who writes this very particular review, which I think is quite excellent. The review starts
you're actually calling people out. Okay.
I'm calling her. I mean,
say her name.
Look, I'm calling her by her. I mean, she's a Goodreads user. She could functionally have a fake name for all I care. So her name is Bria, just to re-emphasize that. She starts the review off with, people are animals. And by people, I mean Bruce Wagner. Bruce, in your little author cottage locked away from society, do you spend time watching porn and masturbating and then call it research for your epic novel on humanity?
Yes.
You must have, because I can honestly think of no other reason you would write such pornographic, nasty garbage. Bruce, if you were trying to shock and awe your audience to make a name for yourself, I suppose you succeeded, because I will remember your work. This is not because it was well written or worthwhile, but because I was so thoroughly disgusted by the inventive swear words, child sex innuendos, and selfish, naive behavior of your characters. You have dug a hole so deep for yourself, I doubt you can ever clean out the shit you wrote out of your mind.
Gorge.
It just keeps going on and on like this until you get to like the end. Here we go. I love this. I love this part. I don't mind some swearing. It adds to the emotion and feeling in a novel. It makes the scenes realistic. I get it. People swear. But that doesn't mean I want to read about Emma Watson's crotch for page after page, or listen to a play-by-play on how our mother, with very little prodding, sold her daughter's childhood for a short career as a photographer. Bruce, I wonder how much research you had to complete to write such detailed descriptions on these inappropriate and insulting topics. Did your editor ever even read this over, or did he just skip huge sections because he just couldn't be bothered to read the words fuck, tit, or porn one more time? Bruce, your tasteless writing just isn't for me, but if anyone loves random TMZ references, obsessions with famous people, and enough swear words to kill a small elephant, this book is for you.
It's for me.
It's for all of us. I love child sex innuendos. It's my favorite topic.
I love that this review could be folded into the book.
Yeah, like that's the best part.
The beauty of it.
I honestly wouldn't be shocked entirely if Bruce Wagner wrote every single bad review on here and like just intersected it as part of like some sort of like metatextual or paratextual phenomena. That would I kind of hope that it's the case. But like I just love the insinuation that there are these like really awful bad people in the world, and that people do really awful bad things. Like everything that happens in this book is like obviously some of it's exaggerated, but most of it's like realistic. Most of it's like it intersects between like the real and the fake quite well. Like, what do you like? Should people not write about insulting or bad things? Like, yeah, Hollywood's a cesspit. You kind of have to write about cesspit things if you want to write about Hollywood, or like if you want to write about the internet, you might have to write about pornography. Like I don't know, but I think the internet might have a sort of weird intersection with pornography, and that might be an interesting topic to write about, particularly the ways that it intersects with how you represent the world as it is. Like almost like the internet's a big part of people's lives. I don't know, but I'm just some random fucking white guy, and but
to be honest, it's
Brie. It's just
where on earth does someone get the idea this is pornographic? It's an anti-porn. This is it's like horror
completely.
It's very conservative. It's deeply reactionary, honestly. I mean, this has like all sorts of like veiled, like nasty race stuff going on. It's extremely critical of women in an unflattering way. I just love the idea that like some like Goodreads user with a name that starts with B read this whole fucking book and was just like, He's endorsing this.
That's the best part about some of the other reviews as well, is that they explicitly mention that they hate themselves for pushing through and reading the whole book. Like, go you, Queen. Like, at least you could have just quit after 50 pages if you what did you expect was going to happen? It was going to get different in 550 pages. But it's also that they kind of forget as well that this is a long-term thing. I think particularly when we look back at satirical writers from the 18th century and on towards today, almost all of them are conservatives. People Jonathan Swift, even in war, it's more a contemporary example. Nathaniel West, most of these people are conservatives. They're not they exacerbate something, or they satirically show off the crudities or crassness of society to reject that thing, not to endorse it. And it's just such a weird thing that people sort of have forgotten that function of satire as being a conservative function. But I guess people don't really read the maybe they just didn't read the book at all, and they're just
I mean, wow! I can't even imagine morally reacting to this in such a way. It just seems like you have to be kind of fucking dumb, so thoroughly misread it.
Well, unfortunately, she has a Goodreads profile on private. Otherwise, I would have.
I would definitely say just reading everything she thinks.
Some of the things that I this is a small thing about Goodreads as well, that I think publishers, and I don't know if it is on purpose, but there are some obviously more contemporary publishers will send out ARCs to Goodreads reviewers and stuff like that, so they can get buzz out there for the book. And sometimes they'll just send out books to the complete wrong readers. They'll be sending out postmodern 600-page, 700-page novels to people who are reading YA, romance texts,
the Christian Mothers Association, or something
what do you? I can imagine this, and you'll see the 1-star review of complex postmodern novel, and then you'll go down to the person and you click on their profile, and all their favorite books are Harry Potter or whatever contemporary YA novel it is. I'm like, what did you did you do this on purpose? Or did you just algorithmically do this and assuming well, this person's a top reviewer on Goodreads, I therefore should get this book out to them? It's yeah, I'm so glad they got to read the latest Joshua Cohen novel or something, right? Shit. So in other words, if you see a postmodern novel with a 3, because usually Goodreads reviewers will every book is between 3.75 stars and 4 stars, almost inevitably. And if it's ever lower than that, you're onto a good book.
That's right. Yeah, I've noticed that as well. I just read the most recent Ottessa Moshfegh novel, who I know is variety of opinions. I love her. I think she's fierce in boots.
I love her mole.
Yeah. What did you say?
I love a girl who keeps a mole on her face.
Yes, she keeps it on, and then my best friend of all time is the little short Gemini with extremely long hair and a big mole on her chin, and she's Ottessa Moshfegh doing the runway, being a superstar, writing incest porn novels. I love it. Something refreshing to me about Dead Stars is just how deep into the vulgarity it gets. And with that Emma Watson pussy passage you read, I mean, it's just deeply satisfying as a person to plunge so thoroughly into how revolting things can get. plunge and minge.
As an American book, we never got clunge, which is it's very sad.
Wait.
Come on, Wagner.
Do you people call vaginas clunges as well?
I think that's a more of a British thing.
What do you mean, you people, Zach?
You people.
Wait, but that's the best pussy word I've ever heard. Did you just say clunge?
Clunge, yeah.
Clunge,
you never heard of clunge?
With a C-L...
CLUNGEE.
Oh, I'm obsessed. I've never heard that before.
At least we had a lot of axe wounds and that sort of stuff in the book as well. Just
there is so much pussy in this book.
I love a good mound, an axe mound or something.
Muff, mound, minge, and clunge. It's so good.
Muff, mound, minge, and clunge. There you go.
I have one very, very brief quote that I have been thinking about a lot from this. Invisible forces led him to continue his scroll. Yes.
What do we think about that? What do you think about that?
I just feel like you kind of touched on this a little bit, but this is I think maybe the only novel I've ever read that is authentically convincing of the internet. And I kept getting lost in these internet dialogues that he does where it's so convincing and real and embarrassing. I feel like he really senses in like kind of a Lynchian way this bleak soul of the congealed internet, with all of these people translating their fucked up little desires and sexual impulses into broken down emoticons and stupid lingo. And I feel like he's just so aware of like that phantom and is so good at fleshing it out without even being like, hammer against nail. It feels very naturalist and realist the way he does it, and it was just breathtaking. And then like recently I got into internet trouble for being like, okay, like Abe Shinzo, sad that he died. And the whole time I was just like reading all the nasty things people wrote about me, and I literally thought of that quote. I was like, invisible forces are making me continue to scroll. Like,
yeah,
it's real.
It is real. And the most amazing thing about it is that this guy is like, he would have been in his 60s back then. He's a boomer.
Oh my God.
Like, it's so amazing that someone who is essentially, when you think about someone who can write about the internet, you're thinking millennials, like, and maybe Gen Z, but like, they don't write anything. So like they're off the table. But
no.
like,
and
but so
I
it's
also
like,
feel like they're too hyper aware. They're like too TikTok poisoned and like too like PC music to like ever make an unironic comment. And of course this is satirical, but I don't think it's ironic. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And like his sort of distance, I guess, it's a weird thing because he's clearly done his research, so to speak. But like he is like way older than most of these characters, but like really gets it, which I find like amazing. Like
me too.
Like
he
how
just like fires through pop culture, like the way that he's like talking about like Rihanna and Katy Perry and like these like sassy little off the cuff drags and bootsing that he does at them. I'm like, what the fuck? How did you do that? Like, I think even like an intelligent homosexual during the era couldn't like see it for the bleakness and write it so clearly. So I was just flabbergasted.
Is it like it kind of reminds me of like one of the other novelists that's kind of done the internet like decently well is Pynchon. Right, like Pynchon's most recent novel, like Bleeding Edge, which that was 2013, when he would have been about the same age as Wagner is now, like 70, 71, something like that. It's written in a sort of Pynchonian style, so it's not like this novel, which is much more like embedded within like internet speak. But like Pynchon does still sort of get the internet and the drive towards the internet and the connections that it has with finance, and the desire to sort of sublimate the self into something anonymous, and particularly the way like anonymity obscures what the individual will explore in the internet. It opens up the cascade of like violence and sex and like what that is interconnected with. But I think even like what's like particularly like Pynchon's approach is, like, speaking of like people from like same kind of generation, Pynchon's approach is much more detached in a way. Like he's connected with it to a certain extent, but still doesn't quite, like, particularly if you compare it to like his other early novels where he like was from that sort of generation. It's a much more like detached, sort of calm, visceral sort of approach towards it. Maybe not visceral is not the right word, but cutting, I guess. Whereas like Wagner's book, and what kind of, as you said, like what makes it like odd is that it's so deeply embedded within the language and the voices of the characters, in a way that is just like, it's hard to quite imagine how a writer can get into that style. I mean, you can say like a similar thing with like historical fiction, right? But even then, like a lot of historical fiction still feels false in a weird way. Whereas this doesn't feel. I mean, I think there may be like some sections where he maybe like does make it a little bit over the top and stuff.
But I think like what was most convincing to me was like it just is so. I don't know. I remember talking to my friends like this, and so it felt like very much like the like Kristeva abject mirror, because I was like, oh no, this is exactly how I used to talk about Rihanna. I was like, oh no. I don't know, especially like those young characters. I feel like his critique of like the art world and this woman who does like vaguely, or I guess maybe even explicitly, like pornographic photos of her naked child. Like those kind of like art world critiques are like pretty prescient as well. But really the most driving sensation of this was like the just perfect explication of how people used to talk on the internet and just how like truly terrifying it is.
Yeah, and it's still do to some extent. Obviously, like, you know, references change and everything like that, but it still has a very similar vibe, right?
Mhm.
Like, so in some ways it's dated, but in other ways not so much, like which is, I find very interesting. So I guess it's really hard to sum up this book in terms of plot.
Oh God.
So I'm not going to try, but what I would say, because it's just so rambling, like and purposely so I think like
that's interesting. I was actually shocked about how well the plot held together. Maybe.
Well, it's not straightforward. So it's like, because there are so many characters, there are a lot of strands. Some of those strands intersect and bind towards the end of the narrative, but some of them don't really. Well, they're kind of, some of them are tangentially related, I guess. But so there are so many characters and viewpoints. There's like, including Michael Douglas, who's like a character in this book. And there's
what is he doing a production of? Is it Cabaret again?
No, it's All That Jazz.
Oh,
yeah. So so then there's also like the teen mom Riona. Then there's Telma, the 10-year-old cancer survivor.
Rihanna.
Yeah. Yes. But like, I guess there are so many characters that I'm not going to list them because it would take like the rest of the episode. But like, one way of like getting in a sense of this is like how we felt about specific characters and their kind of story arcs. Like,
I love Telma. I fucking love Telma.
She's the I knew you would, Zach. I knew you would.
What a fierce little diva. I mean, like, the thing is, of course, she's like disgusting, and I love that this like book like hates her. It's like so satisfying to like see him. Like,
she's not just a diva though. She's a herviver.
She's a herviver.
Herviver.
She's a herviver.
Answer herviver.
God, I'm obsessed with her. I love her layers of delusion, this like complete fantasy world that she lives in, her completely wretched emails that like she's like firing off to every celebrity possible. I mean, she's a drag queen.
Yeah.
My favorite, I don't know if it's my favorite like section of hers, but there's a letter she sends to Michael Douglas.
It's incredible.
Where is it? I got it saved here. She's talking to like, so like her main thing in the book is that she's like the youngest survivor of breast cancer, or maybe just cancer generally, I think. And she got it when she was like 7, 8 or something. And now she's like 11, 12.
She had a double mastectomy.
Yeah, double mastectomy when she was like that young, and she's a survivor. And she's like, her and her mum have like turned it into this like whole thing and like just completely milked it for like all it's worth. And like she kind of believed like tell me kind of like
she's like Honey Boo Boo for like breast cancer.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking like that must intersect with it. She's very much like that. And her like main like plot or like main like tension is that this younger girl who's 4 or something like also gets cancer,
and she fucking hates it.
She fucking hates it. And then they like later on in the book, like the start of the second part, it's like revealed that the doctors fucked up in like multiple different ways, and she never actually had cancer to begin with. And there's like a whole mouth, but like it doesn't really like factor into it. But there's a thing where she's talking to she's like created this whole like network of like young cancer survivors, and is like was working through that network of like money making basically. And she's trying to support this like one particular guy who has to go in for like an MRI because I think he like might have cancer, and there's like just the dialogue of that. And she just like, even though she's like trying to like, you're supposed to be like helping this guy like get through, having to go through this like, you know, process and stuff, she just like starts talking about how she's definitely the youngest survivor because the other person isn't technically a survivor at all. And he goes to her. So he starts with, oh yeah, I saw this little girl on the Ellen show. She's like 4 years old and got it too, breast cancer. She was on Ellen? Yeah, I didn't see it, but my brother sent me a link. He thought it would make a good telly movie. Yeah, she's from Canada, but she's not really a survivor. I didn't even think 4-year-old girls had breasts. And then her again. I mean, you have to be cancer-free for at least 3 years before you can be called a survivor. And the other guy. But I mean, if you're still alive after your surgery or your chemo and whatever, doesn't that make you a survivor? Technically, in layman's terms. But if someone has something cut out and then never spreads anywhere else, like me so far, it takes 3 years before you're allowed to say you're cancer-free. And cancer is always spelled with a K as well. The rule is you have to be cancer-free for 3 years before you're allowed to call yourself a survivor, and 5 years before you're allowed to say you're cured. Allowed? Those are the Cancer Organization rules, and they're very strict. You can't just go and change them. It's like the Olympics, and that girl won't know for 3 years. I mean, I hope she is a survivor. That would be so rad. She's already a hero. She's got swag. Oh, she's the best. Like, particularly
what a little diva.
In that email to Michael Douglas, where she's explaining like explicitly why she uses K, and it's like trying to get like all her different like technical terms over, because she, in very almost post-colonial fashion, she wants to take back the language from the oppressors, and the oppressor being cancer.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was wondering, is this the first Web 2.0 novel? Just like, even though like the all the celebrity references are like the late 2000s, early 2010, but this book came out in 2012. But it's not like the end of that era. It's the beginning of that era, beginning of the current one that we are in. My favorite. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I was reading against the satire. I don't know. I got to the chapter where Wagner lists off the names of all the prepubescent celebrity children.
Muffs.
The honey shots to come.
No, it's just their names. It's literally just their names, like a page. You know, like names like Blue Ivy and Apple Paltrow.
Yes, that's right.
And it's pretty disturbing. Like, it's pretty like it. Yes, it's like it's disturbing. It's pretty disturbing to read.
Yeah. What does he say? It's like, yeah,
it's pornographic.
Those are Obama girls. Yeah. If you think we can't get them, we're definitely going to be able to get them.
Well,
as soon as I turn 18.
Speaking of daughters of like famous people who do fucked up shit, like this book introduced me to the revelation that was Montana Fishburne.
I didn't know this either.
Did you guys Google her after you read that?
Oh, of course.
I knew the entire story. My mother bought the fucking tabloids at the time to show to me and my sister. I don't ever do this. So I was very, very aware of what was going on.
And in my mind in particular, it's also because for some reason, my only image of like Othello is of Lawrence Fishburne playing Othello. Like, so in my mind, it's just like it's it's Othello's daughter becoming a porn star.
Yeah, I didn't mention it, but like Montana Fishburne, Lawrence Fishburne's daughter, is a porn star. Although I think she quit after like a couple of years. She turned 18, like did a couple of films because I think she wanted. The book suggests this, but I can't find any like resources online.
Isn't it lovely that you can't pick apart reality from this book?
Yeah, I know, but like the book suggests that she's trying to do a Kim Kardashian thing. Like she's trying to like be a hoe and parlay that into something else. But like,
I remember people talking about that at the time.
Yeah.
So, like,
okay.
Absolutely.
I don't remember 2012 or whenever it was. Like, it was too off my face. But
I was 2012 is like, you know, I'm in year 10. So this is like peak trying to find porn horniness for me. It's my awakening on these.
No. Distressingly, 2012 was my last year of acting school, so I was very aware of bullshit like this. But I don't know. I think I felt this book was sad. I think because I connected most strongly after you read that chapter, and then the chapter about Jackie, the mother of Jersey and Brianna, and her kind of I don't know. That's the chapter that stood out to me. That's what happened. Her being like, "Oh, I'm going to try and make my way as a photographer, and the only way I can do that is to take pictures of my naked child and sell kid porn."
Well, her story. Sorry, go ahead, Zach.
Who? I'm just kidding. I think for me, like, I was talking a little bit about how much I love like the internet speak of this and everything, but I feel like the book has like kind of that rare modernist touch of Henry Miller always describes like society being like the mesh on top of the churning human spirit. And this is one of the few books I've read in the last published within the last 20 years that also seems to like get at that. And I pulled this little quote out. It says, "Because all of hell belongs to no one man or boy. It belongs to the world at large, not just the pukey smallness of your world within the bigger pukey world, but to the universe and infinitude of undiscovered universes beyond each mirroring the hell of the other, as if to say, this entertainment was concocted to show you there are infinitudes of mirrored shitty hells you will be forced to visit should you ever break free of this one, that which resides in the creepy stink den where you wallow, friendless, unpopcorn, watching the hell of your own reflection thrown back from the screen." And I mean, that is just one of the most prescient statements I've ever read about how horrifying and miserable the contemporary condition gets. And it really does feel like looking into the mirror of the screen and having it flashed back at you in this disgusting nightmare. The whole book is just really seeing things so clearly and brightly. I even though I was like being disgusted and horrified the whole time, I felt like jubilant reading it because I was like, oh, someone else gets it. It's not just me.
Totally. It's horrifying. And I think you've like kind of picked at maybe why that chapter really stuck out to me. It's like the first chapter in the book where the kind of internet lead speak stream of consciousness gives way, because it's like that chapter set in like the 90s, 80s, 90s. And she kind of uses her own slang, her own like personal slang throughout it, but it's not tinged by this kind of graspy, desperate infatuation with like trying to defeat society, maybe in the way that the other chapters. Although she's in her own way, but she's doing it for survival, whereas the other chapter, the character, because
that's the interesting thing about that character Jackie's arc is that she gets a certain amount of fame or infamy or whatever. And the thing about this film is this novel is that
a film.
It's about Hollywood. So, but the thing about this novel is that I think like the kind of binding kind of force with like all of it thematically and everything is that fame warps people in very different ways. And so, and I think Jackie's possibly the only character who kind of was like, nah, I'm out sort of thing. Like, cause she does this thing where she takes the photos of her daughter and like has her pudenda out or whatever. Do humans have pudenda? I don't know. Like, but like she has her daughter's vulva on display in the photos, right? And she comes out of the other side of that and is just like, nah, I'm not gonna kind of continue down that kind of line of infamy or whatever. And there's also some really.
But then by the end of the book, though, that's like just completely cancelled out. Though,
yeah, I know. But like along the way, like I think one of the reasons why I'm bringing it up is that like her arc I find really interesting because. I think it's in her. There's so many characters, so you forget whose chapter is who. But I'm pretty sure it's hers, where she takes the photo of the parents with the stillborn baby.
Yeah,
like that is so fucking heartbreaking, but also disgusting, but also like like so many other emotions. And that's what's so great about this in terms of it balances the satirical elements with a certain amount of like, I guess, pathos or whatever. Like there is like, it's not an intellectual exercise. It's also like an emotional exercise as well. Like that. So that's what I find really appealing about it, especially her arc, I think.
No, I think you got it exactly right. Like what really makes this whole book like so appealing is that like even though like the grandiosity of like these atrocious acts are happening and they're like total calamities and monstrosities upon the earth, it is still kind of like funny. And I mean, it's like it sees like this like extra layer of absurdity that is certainly not irony, but rather like it is like this grinning joke about just how ridiculous like the whole human affair is. And like between like the baby photos and like the passages that Rio was just talking about, like all of them are like very serious about the material, but I don't know, there's like always like something like kind of absurd to be laughed at about the whole situation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny though, because it's a weird balance, because it's not that sort of like irony poison knowing kind of
the tongue is not on the cheek.
Yeah, like, but it's sort of like it's hard to explain. You got to read it, I guess, but like but it does have that kind of sense of the comic that is not completely like it's not completely cerebral or intellectual. It's kind of like,
it's not entirely detached, and that comes back to that point, like the difference between like a Pynchon and a Wagner, in that there's it's kind of like the satirist's dilemma, right? Where in order to properly satirize the object that you're writing about, you really have to become so embedded with that subject matter that you can begin to almost like love what you're supposed to be hating. And I think there's like a weird kind of not respect, but kind of like maybe just an interest in the fact that these are deeply human characters. And the sympathy, it's like there's a deep set sympathy for the characters as well, because he, I think, recognizes that the characters aren't, they've become like almost like mechanized. They've become sort of slaves to things that they don't even necessarily like understand why they want them. Like particularly, I think that's particularly the case with the children, like with Telma and even with like Rihanna as well. In that, like, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're fucking kids. Right, they're victims of something they don't understand. And I think the issue, and I think it's one of the things the book does well, is that the more the internet's becoming a thing, the more people are getting into their like adulthoods as well, and the more like people are becoming older and are still sort of retaining that weird kind of innocence, and they don't have control over their lives, they don't have autonomy about the things they do, and they just become victims of something they don't quite understand, which is kind of like what the internet is, in the particular way like algorithms sort of like demand your attention or sort of like make you think in particular kinds of ways that like none of us really sort of understand why we do so much of the shit we end up doing, right? So it's a sort of deeply sort of Freudian internet novel in that sort of way.
Yeah, totally.
And then but sorry, go Zach.
No, you go. I've been talking enough.
And then but also like not about the internet as well. Like it's as much about Hollywood and LA and like fame like in general as it is about the internet. Like it's just like the intersection of those things. It's very intersectional.
It's a very like this is a Hollywood. It's like this is an LA novel. This is not a it's not just like an American novel. It's very deeply set into that, and like definitely like works across like a lot of like other famous like Hollywood novels. Like there's obviously the influence of like Mara Breckenridge here. There's obviously the influence of like Nathaniel West, The Day of the Locust, and some of West's other work. Evelyn Waugh's The Loved One as well, which is a famous like Hollywood satire. Like all that sort of the Hollywood intersection and satirical intersection of like celebrity, love, sex, and death are like those things like entangled within this sort of like Hollywood like zeitgeist. And like Lynch is like the other one we sort of mentioned as well. Like the fact that like Lynch is like more Hollywood or LA type films definitely like understand just like the connection between like sex and death and fame and like money as well.
And Zach, I think you were talking about this on a recent episode when you're talking about on your podcast when you were talking about Mulholland Drive and how the way that Lynch shoots LA and like depicts it as this sort of like hellish brown kind of like dystopic with like flashes of neon here and there, but like it's very much this novel as well is very much in that set in that place.
Yeah. It's a brown book. I mean,
it is. I was just there. It was disgusting.
Oh God. I mean, I haven't been since I was like 12 and I went to a fucking anime convention. Like, I have no idea what it must be like now. And like my virgin eyes were unprepared for it. But I started reading this like at the beach on the Izu Peninsula, where Kawabata and said a lot of his short stories and you know, when I first started reading this and like picking through like this like murky crap, you know, in comparison to like, this big bright blue sea, I was like, oh God. And then I went like right back to Tokyo the next weekend. I was like, oh, it's here too. Like this encroaching like brown. This is kind of racist that I keep saying brown, bad. Excuse me. but like the hazy, icky color.
Okay, I'll give you a pass.
Thank you, sister. But like the hazy, like kind
Sister.
of sister. Do you know what I mean? It's like that hazy like meld of everything is so disgusting, and like you really see it in Mulholland Drive and throughout this book. Like I don't know, the whole like physical sensation of it is like quite often left to the imagination, but then it'll just like burst through from the internet, and they're like sitting in like a yellowed grass park. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing that I actually never thought about it until we just started discussing it. Is that it's very much based in LA, like the kind of like the locale is well described because I think Bruce Wagner's pretty much lived there most of his life, so he knows it, right? So and he lives and breathes it, and it's in his writing, but it's also this element of the internet, which is sort of a no place. Like it's not a place that kind of is tied to the material realm. And like, but he gets both of them in such a way that is just sort of like it's just amazing that he can do. He describes the space of the internet in the same way that he describes the space of LA.
Yes,
it's incredible. Like I
He also,
cannot
oh my
believe
God,
he's
you
capable
got
of
it
doing
exactly right. That's exactly what I wanted to say. Incredible.
He probably also understands like, and maybe this is something I hadn't actually thought of either, but like it's probably not a coincidence then that you know most of like Web 2.0 is like LA is like and it's the West Coast.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that in some weird way that landscape is like intercepted or is like sort of found its way into internet style and internet life.
God, it's so like another character, Rihanna's baby daddy, Ricky, his kind of the implication of his backstory is so fucking sad. When he like talks about like watching Antoine Fisher and like finding Antoine Fisher, I don't know if any of you've seen Antoine Fisher.
What is that?
It's an early when Denzel Washington was really sexy, and it's about like he's like in the military, and he had a crackhead mom. He had a crackhead mom and a deadbeat dad, and he becomes a doctor.
A doctor.
A doctor in the military. But it's like a inspirational story about how Black people can do whatever the hell they want to.
Do you like the movie?
Did I like Antoine Fisher?
Yeah.
When my mom sat me down to listen, my mom like in her like Black history year where she got my like siblings and I to like watch Black shit and be like, hey, guess what? You're all Oreos. you better listen. Yeah, I did. I mean, Denzel is amazing. He's really, really. I think Cuba Gooding Jr. is in it too, from memory. But I could be wrong. But it's totally in the vein of the liberal ideal of what Black people can achieve. Like, you know, you can have a crackhead mom and a deadbeat dad because you're a poor black kid from nowhere who does nothing, but you can be whatever you want to be. And when he like starts describing that and how he can be, I don't remember exactly it's probably literally he says like you know, Jay-Z and fucking Jamie Foxx and, you know, name the 5 black actors that are allowed to do anything in Hollywood, and he name drops all 5 of them. Yeah, it's the Wagner. What am I trying to say? Wagner's kind of like real, kind of. I now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if he goes hard. I don't know if it's possible for him to kind of delve deep enough into that. But I've never read any other author to even like signify the kind of commodification of the black experience.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Anybody can kind of lash onto that, as Rihanna does, as literally everybody seems to.
But no, I mean,
and kind of, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I keep trying to cut you off. I'm silencing black
No,
voices.
that's
Good luck. Good luck trying to silence this one.
I know. But I am so getting exactly what you're. Sorry, my boyfriends are trying to keep my voice down. But I totally get what you're saying, right? Like, because he understands that like those kinds of pieces of media aren't trying to be evil or like neoliberal or whatever, you know, and they do have like a real emotional effect on the viewer. And
yeah, totally.
The big picture of this whole, you know, wonderful novel is that like he understands, like Bruce Wagner totally gets that like you can really sentimentally feel something, and the grand arc of tragedy is that, you know, all beautiful art, just as all crappy art is that like these feelings are like disingenuous fake images of something else. And so it's just kind of depressing overall. And I actually had a really similar experience, because when I was reading this and like reading through like all of like the Lawrence like Fishburne stuff, and I immediately thought of a movie that my mom and I had a really serious emotional reaction to when we went and saw Akilah and the Bee. Have you heard of this movie?
What the fuck is that?
It stars Keke Palmer.
Oh my god.
when she's like 12 years old or something, and she's like a little like black girl who like rises above it all to become like a top spelling bee champ. Oh my god, isn't that all of our struggle to like rise above the trauma to become a top?
Oh my god. I was gonna say to win a spelling bee. I'm a different guy.
I'm checking to see what the actor. It was Lawrence Fishburne. Okay, good.
I always wanted to be in the spelling bee, but there was no spelling bees in Queens.
that explains a lot.
But it's like this like dumb Lawrence Fishburne movie, and it's like very like heavy-handed with its like race relations, and it like plays like, you know, stock 2006 like hip hop, but she's like learning from the community and practicing her spelling cards. But like, you know, I was like an 8-year-old. I'm like, oh my god, I'm obsessed. And
I miss those movies. They were quaint.
Me too.
Yeah.
Do those kind of things exist anymore?
I don't think they do.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I think with myself.
Don't even go there. I fucking love that movie.
Hey, you know what? My inner city white teacher taught me things, okay?
Including karate.
Including how to French knit. No, I mean, what they died with mid-range movies, so that's fine.
Yeah, I guess to like summarize like what I was trying to say, because I realized I was just like talking about Akilah and the Bee out of nowhere, but like it does turn Lawrence Fishburne. But I mean, like he just like sees like tragic, you know, popular art throughout this novel, and like all of these like gestures towards fame, and he's not arguing that it's meaningless and trite. He's saying that it's actually deeply profound, but merely in a disgusting and newly transcendental way that I don't think anyone's quite ready for, and 10 years later we still aren't.
Definitely. That's a great thing about this book as well, is that they I think even on the back they talk about, they've got like a quote from someone who says something like, "It's such an interior book about people who aren't interior." You know what I mean?
Oh,
There's like
beautiful.
there's a profundity to it that is like, it's really weird. You have to read. It's so annoying to like say this on a podcast where we're describing a book, but like you have to read it to sort of get it, in that like so much of it is surface, but it is so interior. You know what I mean? Like
It's unlike anything else.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to say as well, when I was mentioning Jackie, one of the POV characters, what I like about it is like it's not just in this character's arc, but just in writing in general, is the looseness of it, that is just so inspiring and like refreshing to read 10 years later, after like, you know, the 2010s Tumblr liberalism or whatever. Like the way that he is so free to describe things, like, and he doesn't give a fuck. It's so great. And so there's a great little scene when she's talking about her co-worker in the Photoshop in like Sears, and she's like,
I have this quote highlighted.
Yeah, I'm just gonna read it. So and her co-worker is gay. So she's like, she sat in the lunchroom with Albie, the fag boss she had seriously contemplated proposing to. She loved fags. They were so hurt, so like her, so simpatico. She couldn't live in a world without the caustic kindness of fags. And I was like, yes, come on. Like,
Of course, we both highlighted this.
Yeah, of course. Like, no straight man would write that these days.
Never.
Impossible. Even through the lens of a female character.
You can't say faggot.
I want everyone to say faggot.
Me too. I want everyone.
Ribbons, say faggot.
I'm allowed to
Ruben, say it.
Ruben, say it.
I've fucked men before. I'm allowed to say faggot. This is.
There we go.
Especially in
There we go.
My hot take is I think nobody except straight people should say faggot.
Oh yeah, and like with a really sort of like an undertone of like venomance or something.
Yeah, I think it should only be
that's
bisexuals and
so
straight
hot.
people. Think about it's hot, right? And also
Yeah, it's
gay
so
people are
hot.
getting a little big for their britches.
Yes.
One thing the book like does like particularly well is to get that very, I want to say like early internet like noughties, like, and then like particularly like 2010s as well, sense of like young people just imbibing that internet language of like just swearing, copying song like rap lyrics and song lyrics. There's like a big section where like
saying lol.
saying lol, but like, you know, saying the N word, like saying like, you know, faggot and everything else. There's a section where Rihanna and her like just friends, they're all girls, I think. They're all getting like high as fuck, and they're all like, I don't know, how old is she supposed to be? Like what, 16 something, I guess. That they're all like, you know, teenagers, and they're just like there's almost like a pure like internet like instant message stream of consciousness of them getting unbelievably high, talking about porn, talking about like weird shit on the internet, and that riffs back and forth between like different song lyrics, and they'll just start singing them and rapping them. And I think it definitely like catches that sense of like, I remember being like a, you know, teenager during those like these exact years, and just the amount of bad shit we would say, like the racist shit.
I said the N-word all the time,
like, all the time, and yeah. Like I think this is like this is not like a thing I don't think it's, maybe I don't know if it is still a thing, but it's not a thing anymore as much as I think it was back then. The sort of the explicit edginess.
What year were you born in?
96.
Same as me, like exactly the same. And like I remember there weren't like the rules yet, and so it's like we'd be like in the back of the car, like Nicki Minaj is playing, I'm gonna do the lyric.
Yeah, there's no self-reflect. It's not as much of a self-reflectiveness about it, and but particularly there's a like, well, there is to a certain extent, because like I remember it happening. But like I remember it happening and being like, there's a certain degree of like knowing that it's like, particularly like the racial stuff, like knowing that like none of the people in this particular circle are actually like racists or anything, right? But still using that same sort of language, and then maybe like, and then realizing like, well, I mean, not everyone does, but like some people obviously do, right? And then realizing later, it's like, yeah, fuck, I really feel sorry for like all these like like non-white people who would have been in that vicinity. Like, yeah, they must have sucked. Like, I'm sorry. Like, holy shit. We were awful people. Anyway.
I mean, all teenagers are awful people.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's sort of that like the teenagers will sort of like be awful in their very individual, like contextual way. And like this was like the context of like this time period, like the early 2010s, late noughties. Like just.
But it's interesting, like for Zach, who are you from California originally?
Oregon.
Am I allowed to? Oregon. Okay, that's fine. America. Like, although like the N word has this very specific and different context in Australia, it also has the similar commodified idea. So there's like, you know, calling a Black Australian like an Indigenous Australian, you know, that word. This is dumb. I tend to not say it unless I'm being provocative, just because I don't. Anyway, whatever. But then that kind of like commodified idea of all like not just like blackness, but like everything in this novel. It's all our fucking daughters' clunges are being commodified. It like, you know, it it wends its way down into this like muck that the
muck,
you know, the muck,
clungy,
that we all
clungy
fucking
muck.
The clungy muck that we all absorb, and like we kind of like reiterate without really like kind of thinking, because we're being sold clunge, you know, we're being sold clunge every goddamn day.
Yeah,
we're being fucking sold kiddie porn, like when we watch Glee and we watch Lea Michele and Heather Morris and Santana and fucking,
which, by the way, I'm all here for.
I
think like, honestly, we should promote more of that. Let's go all the way. Like, there's no turning back. If this novel is, you know, suggesting anything, it's that it's too late. Let's just go all the way. Why not?
Yeah, of course.
It's too fucking late.
Climate change is real.
Exactly acceleration.
Let's all be Montana Fishburne. That's the takeaway from this novel.
Exactly. I'm on my futurist bent. I want to just run this all into the ground. Like, let's go all the way. Let's like, see, like, when are we gonna have like child porn, like elephant rape circuses? Like, let's go.
Zach, we're already here. We're already here.
With the clap emoji. Child porn. Elephant.
Child
porn. I'm not going to finish this sentence. I don't want anyone to clip that out. But
anyway. All right. Do we have anything more to say about the novel before we move on to the...
Thank you for introducing it to me. Really, what a privilege.
Oh, I knew you would fucking love it. I knew it was...
Telma, my queen.
Yeah, I mean... I guess I just want to reiterate how fucking sad this book made me, and maybe that's kind of like a, you know, I've already been in a sad girl mood the last month, but like I just really like when Rihanna dies and her daughter's there and the mother takes a picture of that fucking daughter, and then Steve Martin's like, "Can I please have a picture of it?"
The pink panther.
Can I have a picture of your dead fucking? You know, like Anna. Like I remember being like, what? I was like 14, I think, or 15 when Anna Nicole Smith died, and then her son died the next day in the chair next to her, and then the paparazzi, because that was like what the mid 2000s were like the like peak. Like they got away with Diana dying, therefore they're like, we can get away with fucking anything.
Mm-hmm.
And like Anna Nicole Smith was like, in my opinion, like the like epitome of like, this is fucking scummy shit, and like it just made me so sad. This book makes me really, really fucking sad. It's a sad book.
I think it's funny.
That's fine.
Made me laugh.
You know,
but there are sad bits.
I find it is like sad, but I mean, it's like so sad that I also have to have a little laugh about it. Like, I don't know. I find it, you know, isn't it kind of like fun that like we live in this society that is so fucking weird? Like, imagine trying to explain to someone everybody is holding a little piece of metal and then they talk to other people on the metal piece, and then they get into fights, and now they're taking pictures of their genitals on the metal, and then everyone is paying for. I mean, the absurdity of it. It's kind of thrilling.
It is. And I think, I think Bruce Wagner gets that, and I think that's what the novel kind of is. It's like, there's all there's the sadness, there's the bleakness, but it's also like kind of funny and exciting.
It's
at
very
the same
Sadian.
Time. Yeah. One thing that we haven't really spoken about is the language, and not just the way that he kind of, girlfriend can construct a sentence, especially in like these long rants or whatever. But also the way it looks on the page, like he's got this kind of eye that is not just writerly, like it's also like he'll do different fonts and things like that. And some people that annoys some reviewers on Goodreads.
Yes, that's another Goodreads review we can get to. Holy shit.
It's good because
it's like none of these cunts have read Del Toro Quest. Like, nice.
it gives the sense of like the way that you browse the internet, and you get these kind of these disjunctures between fonts and things like that all the time, and all the different links, and like that's really great.
Last Goodreads review that I'm going to read. I'm going to name and shame this person yet again. Keith Rosson says, "Man, first book of my abandoned Goodreads list. I made it. At least he didn't finish the book, so." Kudos to him. He's not that much of an idiot. Right off the bat, the visual aesthetic of this novel drove me apeshit. The use of multiple fonts in a single page, even in dialogue. So when a character says a certain actor's name, a said name will appear in a script font. The switching off of quotation marks and M dashes to denote dialogue, again within a single chapter. The multiple tense shifts. How is that about, like, what? And typographic errors, from an editorial standpoint, this book is a hot mess. I'm sure something could be said about the allegorical nature of the novel, so we almost getting it, and how it relates to the country's downward spiral and language cohesion, etc. Sure thing, but it came across rather than exuberant or tensional as careless. Like, and then he gets like very pissed off. Yeah, and then he's like, much more importantly, it's just hands down the ugliest book I've ever tried to read.
Oh God,
it's a ceaselessly vile,
I had,
ugly.
Like, that physical copy with the dead baby on the cover. That's so cute.
I know. This book is beautiful.
It's like a Cupid doll.
Like, oh my God, it's huge. And I fucking read on my stupid little Kindle. I wanted the dead baby cover.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen the dead baby cover.
That's the dead baby cover.
Is it? No, it's a Cupid doll.
It's a Cupid.
No, but like, look, there's like flesh in the mouth.
It looks like a dead baby.
Okay. I'm not wearing my glasses. So.
What I particularly like is, I'm going in like a dive through this particular that person I just read out review. He's an author himself who happens, like, one of his novels, one of his books, has like more ratings than the Bruce Wagner novel itself, which is a crying shame and should be absolutely like thrown in the bin. Like, all the books he's read are just like, this guy should not be allowed to publish a book. It's just typographical concern.
What's his name, Ruben?
Sorry,
what's his fucking name?
Say his name.
I said his name. His name is Keith Rosson.
Keith Lawson.
Well,
I'm gonna read his fucking book. I'm gonna read his book, and I bet it's gonna fucking suck.
Like, if I see any typographical shifts or change, if I see a tense change in that book, I'm gonna unbelievable. Like,
paragraphs that are coming to Goodreads on Ruben's account.
Just as a small side note, has anyone here heard of modernism? I don't know if you read a book. It's like Ulysses. Was that what it's called? I can't remember. Like, even The Wasteland, maybe.
Ulysses.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. From this guy, what?
Ulysses.
Jamez Jess.
Jamez Jess. It's Jamila Jamil.
Hope you don't mind that I requested you.
Oh, I'm glad.
Oh, God. I feel shitty. I think I've got bronchitis.
Kinda makes your voice sound sexy.
Thank you. So how's the romance going?
It's all right. It's pretty good.
What's that all about for you?
What do you mean?
The burn thing. Is it creepy? Have to fuck her?
Oh, not really.
Did she take her gloves off? Your friends think it's weird? Your friends even met her?
I'm kind of trying to write a script about it.
Ah. Research.
Everything's research on some level.
Would you fuck me if I asked you to? For research.
So Map to the Stars is a 2014 film by David Cronenberg, who I love David Cronenberg. And I actually hadn't seen this film until we were doing the podcast, because it's written by Bruce Wagner. And there are certain kind of thematic resonances with the book Dead Stars. So basically, it sort of stars Julianne Moore. Who else is in it? Mia Wasikowska. I can never say her fucking name. What is she, Polish or something? She's Australian. Yeah. But like, it's a Polish name or something.
Polish,
She's fucking Polak or whatever.
I mean, I don't understand why. Okay, I know why Julianne Moore is billed above me, but she's the real main character.
Yeah, but Julianne Moore, come on, she's great in this. Like, it's a great performance.
Oh, I know, she's amazing.
Can I say something about Julianne Moore?
Yes.
I'm fucking sick of her.
Oh my god, I gasped.
I'm doing a Carrie episode later in August, and I watched the 2013 remake out of curiosity, and I thought that hag was worn out and shit in it. I said, "What did she
play? Did she play the mother?"
Yeah, she played Margaret White. I'm like, you're not fucking Piper Laurie.
No, she was great in that.
Oh, she sure was. But no, I mean, she's great in this movie. I'm just being, a facetious little bitch. But
the thing I respect about Julianne Moore, in the same way that I respect about Kate Winslet, is she will get her tits out at the drop of a hat. Like, she'll get naked. Like, I really respect actors like that who just like, yep, let's go. Like, instead of like being like, oh no, I'll only do it if like you pay me this and like I've got a stunt butt or whatever. Like, it's like she will just get naked. And I respect actors who do that.
It was so pleasing to watch the threesome in this movie. I'm like, oh yeah, this looks like a failed threesome.
Also, what was she doing? Like, so in that scene, there's a scene where there's a threesome with her and a guy, and the guy was in the middle. Wait, the guy was in the middle, and she was like, was she pegging him? Is that what was happening?
No, I think it's literally like, this is a sad threesome, and she's just
rubbing up
the guy, like, totally.
Even when like the guy gets up, and you actually get the cock shot too, and he's not hard. Like he's like, by the time you see his cock, it's within like it's like what 20 seconds afterwards. Like, dog, you've got a problem.
No,
I mean, you have three dirty little queers on the phone right now, and I'm pretty sure all of us have been in a threesome where the main actor's dick isn't hard.
Well, yeah, wait. I've got higher expectations.
Maybe I'm being presumptuous.
My head.
Maybe I'm just ugly.
No, as we were saying before, Zach, you are hot.
Exactly.
Not when you make that sound.
Oh my god, I'm so popular, listeners. Get her out of drag.
Listen, even
what did she say though? Like, because she has like she has the Julianne Moore character. Like the guy gets up, is like talking to his agent or something like that, and then there's like the Julianne Moore character and like stuff, a random chick are still like trying to get at it, and they're just like, I don't know what they're doing. They're just very awkward, very weird, and then and then she has like a hallucination of her mum.
And
then then just like runs off and is like, oh, I'm sorry, Ryan. I guess I'm just a bad dyke.
I love that this film leans into, because it's like, it's kind of 2014, and so, but it's very old fashioned in a way where it's like leaning into like the dream sequence, vision, hallucination, ghosts, or they might be real ghosts or whatever. But like most films these days don't really do that, or they do it in a more, it's not as like kind of, it is sort of ambiguous, but it's not in that kind of like, oh, could it be this or that sort of way. It's like, it's really interesting how they do that. It's very kind of hokey, but I kind of love it.
Well, and Cronenberg in general is like always kind of done that. Like, I mean, like, the first Cronenberg film I saw, and probably still my favorite one is like Videodrome, and just it's a perfect film, but like also like part of what makes it perfect is again that like sort of that intermixture of like what's actually real and what's fake, but it's also the hokiness of it as well. Like near the end of it where he's like deaf to Videodrome, just like shoots the gun into the air. I've never laughed harder. And it's like, I don't even know why. It's just the stupidest shit you can possibly imagine. And there are like many moments in this film that like also made me have that sort of very same reaction. And it's like particularly near the end, and I won't like provide any spoiler, but there's fire, there's a fire.
Yes.
And it's the fakest looking thing you've ever seen in your entire life.
So bad.
And it has to be done for camp, for melodrama reasons. I can't imagine this is not supposed to be comic. Like it's just like the character on fire like immediately becomes a crisp, and the guy's like they're like trying to push her into the pool.
It's so good. But anyway, basically, it's about this kind of family, and among other things.
Other characters like John Cusack plays the dad as well. It's also got Robert Pattinson.
Great casting, by the way. Very, very interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
the kid who sorry, I'm totally derailing this. I think
that's fine.
The kid who plays
when have we not derailed anything in this entire
is so fucking good. I was like, who is this kid?
Oh my god, this kid is amazing.
He was like 14 when he played this role. Fucking whatever.
Yeah. Oh, him. I thought you were talking about the cancer kid with a K. No, she is. No, he's great too. I was really impressed. Very mature performance.
And as a particular like point with the casting as well, that like when you first like watch the film, it does a classic sort of like Cronenberg-esque thing of not really explaining anything at all. And the first cut to him as a character made me like immediately think that it was like a younger version of the Robert Pattinson character. Just because they kind of look a little bit the same, they kind of archive, and that does like play thematically into the later parts of the
I totally had the same thoughts.
The film, but like what I also did, I had like the intuition of this that he also reminded me of someone else, but I didn't quite. I knew it was like some sort of like child actor, but I didn't think of what it was, and then I was like looking at reviews of the movie, and someone was like, "Oh yeah, he kind of like reminded me of the main like child character in Malcolm in the Middle."
Oh yeah.
It's like, that's totally. Exactly it. Like
this is name Eddie Munoz or something.
Oh my god, that's crazy! I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah, but I didn't realize that's the person I was thinking of, but just didn't like twig on to it until I saw this review. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Like I can imagine this is like half like based on. Like I just hope he was like an absolute dickhead. What does he call his like his assistant like right at the beginning of the movie? It's like you told me this girl had cancer.
He thought it was AIDS.
He told this girl had AIDS.
Like you Jew bitch or whatever he calls it.
Yes. What do you call Jew faggot or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, it was so good. So basically,
as a side note as well, just to derail it like a little bit more. There's a certain like part in this movie I'm just thinking like, my God, like these actors, like these child actors are actually playing kids, and you're making them say lines like Jew faggot. It's like, yes, I want more children to like not really realize the like the gravitas of what they're saying and like the scenes they're acting out. Like we need more child actors who are basically being exploited like this.
It is very pleasing to say literal children play literal children then.
Yeah.
I don't know what is going on, but I just like the concept of like kids like just like keeps like popping up lately. Like I like did like a 4-hour episode on TPN recently where I'm like, and once again we have like 2 pedophilia pieces and like kids dying of not AIDS and stuff. I'm like, the children just keep returning to me. There must be a cosmic sign of some sort.
You believe the children are the future, Zach?
Certainly not.
There is no future.
No, I'm the future. I'm going to kill everyone and I'm remaking the world. Everyone has to die, including the kids. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no reproduction after 1996.
So, should I
Anyway,
should I get to the synopsis of the fucking film?
Yes, sorry, please do. By all means.
Okay, so basically, it is a film about. It's basically about a family. The Weiss family, I think they are. The dad, played by John Cusack, is like a. Is he like a? It's kind of like ambivalent. Like, is he like a psychologist? Sort of
He's like a sham quack, like celebrity grifter, being like, "Hey, celebrities, if you want to, connect with your aura, then like come
to the
my,
stars, that sort of thing."
And the scene he's introduced as well is like where he's giving like the Julianne Moore character a like massage, but it sounds like she's getting raped.
Yeah,
and like you've got no idea what the context of this is. Well.
I was like, does she have like a vaginal sensation in her fingers or something?
And because there's no context at all to this. You haven't been introduced to any of the characters or what their connection is or anything. And it's perfect.
Oh yeah, no, this is like a Cronenberg thing. Like this, like a straight cut to just, oh, here are some new people, and you're in the middle of something that is like, what the fuck is this? But so yeah, he is the father of the boy who we were talking about, who is like in this kind of franchise called Bad Babies. Is it Bad Babysitter?
Something like
Bad
that.
Babysitter.
Bad Babysitter.
And there's like 5 of them or something.
And he's just come out of rehab, this kid, and John Cusack is the father. And the mother, who's the mother again? What's her name? Sarah Gadon, is that? Oh no, Olivia Williams.
Jessica Parker.
Olivia Williams is her name. And so basically, it is his family in Hollywood. They're a Hollywood family. This kid is like really kind of famous
monster,
and he's a fucking monster. And it turns out that his sister has just come back to town after causing a whole heap of crap, kind of chaos and burning down their old house. That's Mia Wasikowska. There's Robert Pattinson is in there as well, but I thought he would have a bigger role in this, but he doesn't. It's kind of like he's in like 3 scenes.
He's kind of like a red herring character.
Yeah.
I feel like.
And I think it's like it from like the biographical context as well. I think the red herring is partly to do with the fact that Cronenberg's, I think this is the film before this, was the Cosmopolis.
Yeah,
like
which is a great film, by the way.
So that the Don DeLillo adaptation where Robert Pattinson plays a character who basically just sits in a limo the entire film.
Yeah.
And like ironically in this film, he's a limo driver. So I think that's obviously like a nod that you think he's going to be like much more important as a character, and he's just not at all.
Yeah, so it's basically about this fucked up Hollywood celebrity family, and the daughter who, being a pyromaniac and a schizophrenic, returns to Hollywood because she's turned 18, so she's free from the therapy or whatever. Now, Zach has basically not been able to watch the entire film, so we thought it would be fun if Zach could try to work out what happens in the film. First of all, tell us where you got up to in the film.
Yes, I'm retarded, so I didn't realize that Australia actually has a later time zone than Japan. I always thought it was the other way around, and I'm learning new things and growing as a person every day.
We're in the future, baby.
It's fine. Yeah. I mean, we are. Everyone thinks we're backwards, right? So it's okay. Right?
We are upside down, though.
Well, I actually knew when I went into reading Dead Stars that originally Bruce Wagner had wrote the script for this film. The plans had fallen out for it, and then he went to adapt the initial ideas from his screenplay into what we see as Dead Stars. So I was thinking a little bit about that as you asked me, like, what do I anticipate? And I know that there is something on fire now. So I imagine that Mia Wasikowska is going to have sex with John Cusack. I think that there's going to be
interesting.
I think there's going to be a big calamity. I think that the not cancer kid is going to show up as a hallucination in the woods or something. And I think that Mia Wasikowska is going to have a emotional break and set the house on fire of this family featuring Julianne Moore.
not really close at all.
It's good though. That would be an interesting. That would be an interesting film though.
You did get the not cancer. Wait, the not cancer, the not AIDS girl thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but like the main like pivotal point with that is he keeps obviously hallucinating her, and he's in like he's getting like really pissed off at his like younger co-star in the new like babysitters film. Because he just like keeps like getting all the good lines and stuff, and like goes into a like what like a portaloo sort of thing with him, and is like basically telling him, mate, you gotta stop you giving me all these lines while he's taking a piss, and then
because this younger kid is chewing the scenery and he's really pissed off at him. So,
and then he hallucinates the cancer girl. And proceeds to just snap and choke the cancer girl, who's also the kid.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
and this kid is like 4 years old. He's a little baby.
Yeah, he's fucking tiny. But also that
so he
scene
chokes this kid out. Yeah,
that scene in particular is like kind of odd because like just before he starts having the hallucination, it looks like he's taking his cock out to take a piss in the sink, whilst the kid is taking a piss in the actual toilet. And
that is absolutely what is happening.
Yeah, but it's never like established that he actually does have his cock out. But I'm just like it makes sense that he does, and is like strangling this guy with
his dick out.
Love that.
Who hasn't been there?
Yeah, who hasn't, right? I mean,
who hasn't been there this week?
But yeah, like that sort of the main like plot thing that I don't think you would have gotten up to yet is that the parents of these two kids. And like that's the main plot thing that you get is that not only did the Mia Wasikowska character want to like not only did she burn down the house because she was having like schizophrenic delusions or whatever, but she also wanted to had these like weird sort of incestuous kind of vibes with her brother, like the child actor.
Oh, okay. So I just misplaced the
and that she wanted to like the main thing was that on the night she did the fire they were gonna like she was gonna like pseudo marry him, and it was like gonna be this weird sort of thing. And then it gets revealed later that of course they're like their parents, the John Cusack character and the Olivia Williams character, are like brother and sister. And
oh, yummy.
So it's like there's a lot like
don't you just adore a little bit of incest?
Yeah, and it's like one of the reasons why I wanted to like it would depend like on how far you're into the film. It's like the film like is that kind of like mirroring thing where like
right
it does like it's the replication of like narratives and that sort of thing, and it does like sort of end up like that.
I do love not just a bit of incest. I demand it. More incest. Like I mentioned earlier that I was like reading Fona by Otessa Moshfegh, which is just like the like New York Times best-selling incest novel of the century, and wow. I love what Cronenberg is up to. That's great. This movie seemed like it made no splash at all.
No, it didn't. But apparently, Julianne Moore won Best Actor at like Cannes or something, and that's about the splash it made. Like that's about
right.
It. But like,
but ironic as well. It's like it was one of the reviews I was reading about this mentions is that at one point, like kind of near the climax of the book, Mia Wasikowska. So the Julianne Moore character like convinces the Robert Pattinson character to fuck her in the back of the limousine.
Yes, that's so great. Yeah.
Whilst Mia Wasikowska is so watching.
Fun. He's watching. Yeah.
And like she doesn't know. I actually don't even know if like Julianne Moore knows that she's watching or not. I don't know what that was about. But because like at that point she hasn't also seen her for like 2 days or a day or something. So I assume she doesn't know. But like walks into the house, sees her there, and she just like Mia Wasikowska just snaps and beats Julianne Moore, like kills her by just like hitting her over the head with an Oscar.
To death.
And what I found out in this review is that very Oscar, which has like a few like
Zach's
nice
face
product,
right now,
which has a few good product placements in the thing, is actually the same Oscar that it's a David Cronenberg Oscar that he won for like an earlier film, and like has never like gotten any attention from the Academy like, again after that. So it's like it would have been
Yes!
very appropriate if Julianne Moore would have won
Wait,
an
was
Oscar
it like a
for this
history
role.
of violence? Was that the one?
No, it was for like spiders or something like that, I think.
Who the fuck
which was
cares about
just-
spiders?
Yeah, it's just not even like that well
He
known in the
does.
film. And so he uses this, and it's very graphic as well. Like she's just like beating her over the head.
It's-
You see her gashed face.
Yeah,
there's
and
like-
blood
there's like-
everywhere.
She gets brain in her hair, like
Oh.
yeah.
And the
It's great.
character
Oh.
who sets themselves on fire is the
I can't wait to finish
yeah.
watching this after we're
Yeah.
done recording.
It's
the character
really
the character who
good.
sets themselves on fire is like so Mia Wasikowska like rocks up at the parents' house. Is like trying to talk to the mum, and it's like, yeah, look, I know all about your incestuous love affair. It's like it's okay. It's like okay. And then eventually like, she leaves after getting beaten up by John Cusack. And then like afterwards,
he physically beats her up. It's great.
yeah, and then like after that stuff happens is when the character the actor like their son is like chokes out the kid and just he eventually escapes, tries to meet up again with the Mia Wasikowska character after she kills Julianne Moore, and then they do their like sort of ritual thing of like getting sort of pseudo married. But in between there, he has to go and fetch his dad's wedding ring like to enact this ritual, and like just before then, John Cusack just comes home and is like notices that his wife has just set herself on fire next to the pool.
And it's like
And
really fake
It's
looking
really
fire.
fake looking
It's so-
fire, and he doesn't
so
know what
great.
to do. And he's like, "Oh shit, I don't want to touch because I don't want to burn myself here, but I also want to like put you out in the fire." But she's immediately gone fully black, crisp, like just immediately. And it like gets a chair and it's like poking her.
Yeah, he
into the bush.
pokes her with the lilo.
Into the
It's so
fire.
good. You would
And then,
fucking love
like,
it, Zach. You have
Is he
to watch
supposed to
it.
be dead by the end of it though? Like I don't know like
John
what he was.
Cusack?
He's
I don't think so.
catatonic, I think.
He's
He's
catatonic.
catatonic.
He's just like sitting in an armchair.
Yeah.
With
I
his,
cannot
like,
believe you were
wife.
imagining I could even come close to predicting something like
Oh, no, but
anything
it
you
does
just
kind of. I
said.
mean, it would have depended on like on how far you were into the film. But
Yeah.
I think at like at some
Um,
point you do realize that.
What clue
you
am I
know
gonna
the-
get that she's gonna set herself on fire?
Well, I mean,
and then she's gonna get like
thematically-
flooded into the pool.
You know,
Thematically,
you
it works with
don't.
the water. Like I saw all
I
this
think-
coming. I don't know about you guys.
I mean,
This is like-
all of the fire, like foreshadowing, it culminates in like the mum kills herself out of nowhere. It's really wild. I do
Okay.
also just want to mention like the scene that Julianne Moore probably won that award for, which is when the role that she spends the entire movie gunning for, which is a remake of the film.
Oh, yes. It's
That
so
her
good.
mother
mother
was
acted.
in.
Her
yes.
mother, who like sexually abused her or whatever when she was a child, or whatever when she was a child, acted in, goes to another actress, and the actresses and Julia Moore sees this actress coming out of a shop and meets her little son. You find out that her son, off screen, passes away drowning. And Julianne Moore finds out about this and goes ballistic with happiness about. And what the fuck? She starts singing.
She thanks the kid, whatever the kid's name, like
thanks the
Billy or
kid,
whatever,
and
and
then-
she's like clapping.
She's clapping and she sings like, "It's a lovely day." God, what's the song?
Yeah,
It's a good
so
day.
good.
So
It's
she
so
sings like,
good.
"It's a good day. It's a good
Yeah.
day." I don't remember what the
It's
song
so
is.
fucking
It's like it's so
horrendous, wretched.
horrendous and disgusting. And she's incredible in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
I gotta finish the feature just so I can get a palate cleanser after her atrocious performance in Carrie.
Oh yes, definitely.
Absolutely. She's great in it. It's under 2 hours. Like so much happens in this film and it's under 2 hours. It's very
I had a question for all of you, especially thinking about Dead Stars as well as coming out of this movie. What did you take away from it?
It's really funny. I could really tell the Cronenbergian influence in the film on top of the script. Like, I would not call the film a satire. Like, it seems to be like everyone who made this film was like, no, this is what this fucking place is like. Like, although it's funny, it's far less. It's like Wagner in the Dead Stars is like trying to make you laugh a bit, but I don't think that Cronenberg or any of the actors in this film are actually trying to, like, you're going to laugh because it's so insane, but it's I wouldn't call it satire. Yeah.
You're going to laugh, Zach, because you have a twisted sense of humor like I do. I fucking
Did you laugh?
Oh fuck yeah. It was so funny.
Yeah, I think I'd probably cackle at someone being on fire on a beach chair. I wish it was the cancer kid.
It's not quite as like particularly like Videodrome, where so many of the effects are just so bad that you just can't help but laugh. Like particularly the fire imagery is like particularly bad. But
to be fair, actually, I'm quite like receptive towards bad CGI, and I think so like I think I honestly get more disturbed when the CGI is worse, and I'm like less inclined to laugh. Like in like Twin Peaks: The Return, like the Bob orb at the very I don't know which of you has seen this, but the Bob orb at the very end of the season. It like looks like shit from a like design standpoint, but it like fucking like scared me. I wasn't laughing. No, get that off of my screen. Get that fag off my screen. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, definitely. Like that fire effect was like in any other filmmaker's hands, I would have been like, oh, they just didn't have the budget. But it was like that was purposeful. You know, like he
absolutely.
He like went there because, you know, I feel like it's related to the subject matter, which it's about Hollywood and like the kind of fakery and like, surface superficiality of Hollywood.
I thought I also like, so it was really funny when Carrie Fisher pops up for a cameo on this.
Yeah,
loved it. She feels right at home in this universe.
Yeah, because the book. So this small thing, like the movie does like a really good thing of like that a number of Hollywood films don't really know how to deal with is that the fact that the actors are themselves like obviously famous and are well known. They're not just like random people off the street, and like just sort of allowing you to think like, wait, are some of these characters actually? Like, I feel like this movie would have actually been better almost if it just like played into like just called the Julianne Moore character Julianne Moore. And like just did something like that.
Ruben, that would be awesome.
I'm interrupting you to say that you literally interrupted me to say exactly. I was literally just about to say Julianne Moore should have just been Julianne Moore, and John Cusack should have just been John Cusack.
And look, she would have been up for it. Like, you know,
absolutely,
he would totally be up for that.
And I feel like there are films like this as well. Like it isn't. I feel like there are some recent films that are somewhat like would play with that a little bit as well.
I was looking forward to the debut Zach Langley Chi Chi figure starring Mike the Situation Sorrentino as Mike the Situation Sorrentino, who chases me down on the beachside and bludgeons me to death, which I've been thinking about for about 3 days straight, nonstop. But I mean, certainly someone must have $200,000 to hire an actor to do this kind of thing. Like, come on, let's go. Where are my teal bucks? I like have ideas. I'm like ready to go.
Where are your teal bucks?
I only got 200 of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think technically you would be a twink, so Peter Thiel would be into that. So
certainly. I mean,
he loves twinks.
Yeah.
He loves drinking the blood of twinks, I think.
Well, great. He can drink my blood as long as he lets me make a fucking movie. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, which I think is something that from my initial inclinations of Map to the Stars and Dead Stars as well, they both kind of suggest that like this like fame machine is a kind of an evil dead end path towards nihilism. But I'm like lately very like inclined to think that actually everyone should just like rush towards that path completely and totally sell their soul in order to scratch the surface of history in the small way they can. And, you know, I'm wondering if I'm like alone in thinking about that, or if like I didn't learn enough from these two pieces, but I'm like, I want to go all the way. Like, I want to be Telma.
You can be one of Telma's twinks, right?
Exactly. Telma's twinks.
Yeah, no, I kind of, I tend to agree. Like, because there's something about like Bruce Wagner's work that kind of like, it's satire, but he also, you can tell that he has a lot of love for this stuff as well. Like,
totally.
He kind of like, oh, it's kind of quaint. Like, he sees the humanity in it, like, as well as like the depravity and like the disgusting, repulsive kind of like the abjection of it. But like abjection is humanity, you know? So like, I think he really gets that. And I think there's something to that, Zach. Like, I think it's a really kind of profound point.
How sweet of you. But I mean, the point about abjection being humanity is so true, because the way that it's argued in that Kristeva book that I'll never shut up about is that jouissance and abjection are just merely on the same spectrum and are mere reflections of one another. And true feelings of disgust are equal to true feelings of ecstasy. And, you know, why not just go all the way with the disgust? I mean, I already do it in my sex life anyway. May as well do it with my personal branding.
It's like horseshoe theory, but with shit.
That's literally
horse poo theory.
Oh my God.
Horse poo theory. Horse poo theory.
I hadn't done a dad joke yet, so there we go.
It wasn't a dad joke. That was a transient philosophy.
That's right.